Hello everyone, how you doing? I hope you're doing great. It's Whimsy at Broke Aristocrats. How do you like my Christmas colors? Yes, I'm in green and red today in honor of Christmas, and I hope everyone is preparing for the holiday and taking good care of themselves. Today I decided to have a conversation about student debt, and the question is having student debt worth it? This is a subject that comes up a lot in the frugal community, and I want to have a little bit of a conversation about it because I do have extreme student loan debt. So I get asked a lot about the debt because I don't have credit card debt anymore. I took care of that within the amount of time that I think Dave Ramsey said that it averages about 17 to 18 months when you get on the program, and it worked out like that for me too. I think I paid off something like $17,000 in a year and a half. So I did pretty good. I lived pretty frugally. I wasn't making a lot of money at the time. Now I am tackling the student loan debt, which, as many of you know who have been watching the channel, is quite high. I think I'm at, well, I know how high I am. I'm well over $300,000 in student loan debt, because I did go to medical school. And so when people hear about the massive debt of somebody who's gone through medical school, they get horrified, they get upset. Oh my God, I don't ever want to go to medical school. Think about all that debt. It's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible. My response to people who are considering school or who are looking at student loan debt and trying to decide if education is right for you is to really just sit down and crunch the numbers. Yes, it's true that education can be extremely expensive, but you really have to also look at the profits. Is this a liability or is it an asset? So I want to talk a little bit about assets versus liabilities. A liability is something that we pay and we don't necessarily get any kind of a benefit. It doesn't make any money for us. An example of a liability would be paying for clothes, buying clothes that you wear, but it depreciates over time, so you keep buying clothes, you have them around. They're not making money, they're actually gaining less value. Things we have around the house that can go bad, that are not actually, they lose their value over time. That would be a liability. Or something that isn't making money. You bought something but it is not making money. That's a liability. If you're paying a monthly fee on your credit cards, but you're not seeing anything coming from that, that's a liability. Your debt can be a liability. Now, an asset is something that you put money into, but it gives you a profit. An example would be buying rental properties. This has been used a lot as an example of an asset. And you put a certain amount of money down for that rental property, and then you use that rental property in order to have an income. That would be an asset. That is exactly how I would encourage people to look at student loan debt. There have been a lot of false arguments about who goes into student loan debt, and they're really straw man arguments. Everyone goes into student loan debt for different reasons. A lot of the people that are going to college are not 18 years old. They're in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. Sometimes they're older students who want to get job skills so that they can earn a better income. I started college when I was 33 years old. I had an education before that, but I wanted an education that was more geared towards the career that I had chosen, which was to go to medical school. And along the line, I incurred a lot of debt. Now, if I wasn't working as a physician, it would have been a massive liability. It would have been a disaster. But because I earn a living as a doctor and because my income increases every year, for me, the initial investment became an asset. And let me explain why. You have to take into consideration when you're taking out a student loan what is going to be your return. Did you do your homework? Did you get the best price? So you choose an education. Hopefully you're going to get the best possible education at the best price. And you've also done your homework to see whether or not you're going to be able to earn a living in that chosen field. That's all the kinds of things you have to think about when you are going into student loan debt. I think student loan debt is fine so long as it's debt towards an asset. It's debt that is going to be directed towards an asset. You are getting that education knowing that there is going to be an income at the end of it. If you don't know if you're going to have a job, if there's no job at the end of it, it's just going to be a liability. And then you have to ask yourself if you really want to go through that, the stress of paying off all that debt, if there's no ability to make any money at the end of the educational experience. Education has value because we gain all kinds of positive experiences from becoming educated. But if you're going into massive student loan debt and there's no job at the end of it, you have to ask yourself, really, do I want this liability? Because at that point, it's a financial liability. So I did go into massive debt, but my income and my income opportunities are much, much, much greater now as a result of my doctoral degree than they would be if I had remained a diner waitress at Johnny's Coffee Shop on Fairfax in Wiltshire, which is what I did before I went to school. So that is just kind of what I want to leave people with, that it's really not, there's no right or wrong really when it comes to student loan debt, even extreme student loan debt. If you look at it objectively from a perspective of, is it an asset? Yes, you take out a large sum of money, but if your paycheck is now $150,000, $200,000 a year versus $25,000 a year, then I would argue that you made a very good investment. It's like spending $300,000 on a house and then you sell the house and you make a profit of a couple $100,000 from the initial investment. Then at that point it's become an asset and it was a good investment. But if the house becomes devalued during a housing crisis, a crash in the market, then it was a bad investment. So again, it's really up to you. It's your own individual situation. Did you get your money's worth? Were you able to turn that education into an asset? Are you making an income from what you initially studied? For me, because of how my income has steadily risen, as long as I made money from the initial investment and paid the debt off, for me it was an asset. In my situation, because of how I was able to increase my income, it's definitely been an asset. I'm very grateful for the fact that I got my education, and I'm grateful for the fact that my income has risen to the point where I will be able to pay it back. So those are all questions you have to ask. Is it a good investment? Will you get a good return on the initial investment? If the answer is yes, then I think that student loan debt is just fine. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure and share, like, subscribe, and tell me what you are doing to take care of yourself without breaking the bank. Thanks for watching. Bye.